Hi, Jim. Hello, how are you?
Hello, hello, Christine.
You're like, oh, hi. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Where are you right now, though?
I'm in Germany right now.
Nice, nice. You're like a free nomad right now, traveling all over.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So it's one
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning here, but I had my coffee and I'm good to go.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate you like adjusting your time to actually be live here to be on PST schedule. So, yeah, Jay, why don't we start by you introducing yourself first? Who is Jay?
Okay, before I introduce myself, I have to tell you guys that I am Christine's number one fan. Christine, I started watching you and you love money, but you have a passion for it. You have a passion for teaching, and your passion comes through. And I was like, I like this girl. She knows what she's talking about. So
Uh,
I just wanted people to know that that's why I'm here, because of you. Let's see. I was a speech pathologist for many years, and then I decided to get my master's in special education. And when I did that, I got a job in Japan. I worked in the States for um, 15 years. And then I got a job in Japan for 3 years. Then I got kind of antsy.
mhm.
And then I got a job in Germany for 8 years. And then finally Italy for 5 years. So, and I retired at 56. Well, I left my job at 56. And I've been traveling around the world for this is the beginning of my sixth year. I'm in the fourth month of my sixth
Wow.
year of I live in the world. I'm home free. I don't have a home. I just live in the world. So where I'm like Gladys Knight and the Pips. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. Wherever I lay my hat is my home.
Oh, okay, cool. That's so awesome. I actually interviewed she calls her a professional hobo. It was like maybe 2 weeks ago. It's a live stream. So she was doing it full time for 12 years. And then I think
Yes.
yeah, now she kind of found a place to settle, but I think she kind of missed doing that too. So okay, so
I
tell us.
followed her a lot. When I
I'm sorry?
started my process, I followed her
Yeah.
website a lot. She gave a lot of good
Oh.
information on the website.
Oh, okay. You're familiar with her. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. She's on LinkedIn too. I met her on LinkedIn. Okay. So why don't we start about your story about financial independence? So first of all, we before we get there, like what is your definition of financial independence?
My definition of financial independence is getting yourself to the point where you don't have to work. You can live self-sustained without actually having to work. So I wanted to get to the point where I didn't have to work. I had no really in the beginning I had no intention of stopping work. I wanted to just get to the point where I didn't need to work. But I thought I would still want to work. But as I got older, as education became a little less of that I loved it. I was passionate. I'm a teacher. That's what I do. I'm a teacher at heart. And so when education became a little too much paperwork than actually doing, a little too many meetings than actually teaching, a little too much um, following new guidelines, I said, you know what? I'm financially independent. I'm going. So at 56, the minute I turned 56, I signed my papers and I told my secretary I'm out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how make that plan so you can be financially independent at 56? So what was your financial plan like to actually get there?
Okay, this is a long story. I'm going to make it short as I can. When I was 19 years old, I remember this so vividly. I walked into the kitchen and I told my parents, I said, you know what? This work thing is highly overrated. I don't understand how you do it, how you've done it so long, but when I turn 55, I will not be working for anybody. And I meant that with all my heart because I was working at, here's the thing. I was in college, and during the summer, I was working at Popeyes. And that's what I did. I just worked at Popeyes in the summer to make money for books and that sort of thing. And I said, so, but I didn't live according, that was always in my mind, leaving at 55, leaving at 55, but I didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
And my father, as I told you before, my father taught me everything I know about money. Everything I know about money, he taught me.
Yep.
And but I was not following his advice. He said, "Don't buy a brand new car." The first paycheck I got out of college, I bought a brand new car. You know, he just taught us a lot about money. What happened? I had an aha moment that changed the trajectory of my life, Christine. I was working, and one of the teachers said, "Jay," now let me clarify this. I was working, living at home with my parents, had a brand new car, deep in debt because I was partying like a rock star. I know I don't look like it now, but I used to party. And I was partying like a rock star, spending money, and just not having that plan that I knew I had. And she said, "I'd like for you to come." She said, "You're so fun." She said, "I want you to come to my housewarming party." Well, I'm hearing this from my reality. I said, "So did your parents buy another house? Buy a house?" And she said, "Oh, Brown, you so funny." She said, "No, I bought another house." Christine, that word another changed my life. I'm like, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, the house I'm living in,
Yeah.
I'm going to rent out. And then this new house will be like my second home, my new home." And I went home and I was telling my dad about it. And I was like, and he said, "So what are you going to," he said, "Why are you seem like you're angry." I'm like, "I'm not angry." And then I thought about it. I'm like, yes, I'm angry at myself because although I did not want two houses, I could have had a house and I didn't have it. So from there, I changed the trajectory of everything. I sat down, I made a plan. I knew I did want a house, and I started doing all the things that my father taught me to do. And let me tell you how the story ends. It ends well. 5 years, almost to the day that that young lady invited me to her house warming party, I built a brand new house on a lake from the ground up 5 years
Nice.
later. And after that, I cut up all my credit cards. And listen to me, and I want everybody, young person out there, to listen to this. I have had one credit card since I was 33. One. That's it. And so the things that my father taught me, she basically, my father laid the foundation for the road. I wasn't on the road. When she said another, that word put me back on the road. Because I knew everything I needed to do to build wealth. I knew all the things that I needed to do. So that was my aha moment that said, "You know what? It's time for you to straighten up and fly right," as my grandmother used to say, and the old people used to say, "You need to straighten up and fly right." And that's what I did. But it took someone else's uh, uh, success to make me get started.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. So you're talking about emergency fund. So we all know the benefits of emergency fund. So why don't you say first, what's your definition of emergency fund? What's the benefits of that? And how can people start building an emergency fund?
Okay, an emergency fund is for me, in my opinion, emergency fund is the foundation of wealth. It is no matter how much you make, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you do not have an emergency fund, you cannot build wealth. And let me tell you why. It's what I call premature investing. What happens is when people hear how about uh, what is it, compound interest, and they want to start investing, and they start investing, what's the first thing, and they don't have an emergency fund, what's the first thing you're going to do if you have an emergency and you don't have an emergency fund? You're going to go to that investment, you're going to cash it in, you're going to lose maybe a 10% penalty for cashing it in, and then you're going to lose money. It's just, it doesn't make sense. I
Yeah.
don't believe that anybody should do
Mhm.
anything, get out of debt while you're saving your emergency fund, but you should definitely have an emergency fund. And what my father taught us, this is what my father taught me. He taught me three major lessons that led me to building wealth. One of them was this. When I was about 16 years old, he called me in the kitchen. Daddy was always calling us in the kitchen to teach us something. If he called you in the kitchen, you weren't in trouble, you were about to get a lecture. Sometimes I would rather be in trouble than get a lecture. But those lectures, and for all you people out there who try to teach your kids, don't think they're not listening. I thought I wasn't listening, but I was. And he said, listen, I don't want you to ever put yourself in a predicament where you can't walk away from a man or a job you don't love.
Mhm.
Don't be confined. And he said, if you have an emergency fund, you are in control of your life. Now, he told
Exactly.
us an emergency fund was 6 months to 12 months. And I was
Mhm.
always struggling to get to that 6 months. And I was like, when I discovered that most people say 3 to 6 months, I was like, but it worked out well because I've always had about 6 months of living expenses saved up.
Mhm. Okay,
And
got it.
so,
Mhm. Yep, yep. I like that because then if you don't have emergency fund, then yeah, if something happened, then you either gonna go credit card if you don't have, or investments if you know if you're gonna go credit card if you don't have investments, and investments if you do have investments, but then you don't know where the investments is at that point in time. So,
exactly,
and then like
exactly.
yeah, yep, yep,
And
exactly.
I
Okay, so I
think the food,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that because you were saying, yeah, your father is a very smart man, right? He said, rich. He said, poor people save and rich people invest. So, tell me more about that.
Now, he told me this was when I think I was 13 years old, and I had a Christmas savings account. I was so excited about that Christmas savings account. And when
Yeah,
I got that account, he said, "Come here in the kitchen." And I thought, "Oh, well, maybe he's so proud of me, he's going to give me some money." You don't
yeah.
know my daddy if you think that was what was happening. He's made me spread my money out on the table and said, "Look, it's okay now. You're young. You're 13 years old. You can save, but let me tell you, once you make 18, I do not want to catch you saving your money." He said, "You don't save." And I thought, well, maybe daddy had a stroke because this man has spent all of his life telling us about saving, saving, saving. And now you're saying don't save your money. And so what he explained to me is said, poor people save, rich people invest. And so then after that little lecture, the next few years, he taught me about investing. I knew how to read the Wall Street Journal. I knew what the symbols were. I don't know that stuff now. I have my brother-in-law who does all my financial stuff, so I don't have to word point a lot. But I advise everybody to know as much as you can for sure. So he said basically that was it. Rich people save, poor people invest. And he taught me about investments. I didn't pay that much attention because it wasn't real to me. I understood the concept. I understood about compound interest. And what he did was took my money, and back then they had those big calculators about the size of a big box. He pulled out his calculator and he did some calculations. He said, "This is how much you would have if you had saved this for a year. This is how much you would have if you had invested this for 10 years." By the time he got to 15 years, I was hooked. I was like, what is this compound interest? I want it. I want more of it. How can I? Because I've always been a saver. And so one of my funniest things that ever happened was one of my kids, and in the workshop, I come to every year since I've retired, I stop off in Germany and I teach at the high school. I teach the seniors, a big group of seniors during seminar, and I teach them basic money man, basic stuff. Not all of the big stuff you teach, but just the basics. That's all I know to teach. And one of the kids said I was explaining to him about some of the things my father had taught me, and I was telling them about compound interest. And he said, Miss Brown, he raised his hand. He said, Miss Brown, where do we go to get this compound interest? He was invested. He was ready. When you teach people, I believe that my mission is to teach young people, high school kids,
Okay.
basically about basic money management. Because, you know, what is it? Robert Kiyosaki said, if you want to keep poor people in the middle class poor, don't teach them about money. And it's so very true. Don't teach them about money. He was in Spain, and this is when what kind of changed my trajectory for my retirement. I was in Spain volunteering, not one of my more altruistic volunteer jobs, but speaks you're teaching doctors and lawyers and business people English. You're not teaching, you're having conversational English. It's a full immersion. And there were three young kids. They were adults, but there were three young kids there. And they said, Jay, let's walk down to the lake. And we walked down to the lake, and they said, how are you able to leave your job at 56 and travel? You just hanging out in the world, traveling. They said, you must be rich. I'm like, no, don't get it twisted. I am not rich. Oprah is rich. Bill Gates is rich. I'm smart. And I don't need that much. So I'm able to save and invest my money. I said, and my father taught me everything. They said, well, tell us what your father taught you. Well, Christine, and them basic things, basic. Pay yourself first. 10% of everything you make. Have an emergency fund. The things we're talking about now. And they said, Jay, we never heard of this. And one of the girls, I can't remember her name, but she was so funny. She said, I don't think my parents know this. And that's when I realized not only is poverty generational, but so is money mismanagement. So many people are in the situation they are, not because they're not making money, not because they're not making enough, because they don't have an understanding about building wealth, about investing, about having an fund. So staying out of debt. Because I was able to do what I did, and we were just talking, and I told you the 5 years that I've been on the road, I was living, I saved, it took me 3 years to save 5 years worth of living expenses because I knew between 56 and 62, I would have no income. So I saved 5 years of living expenses. You know why that was so easy? Because I don't have debt. I haven't been in debt since I was 33 years old. So I don't believe in debt. And I was just watching someone talking about credit cards the other day. And I know some people have to have that and they have to do the formulas. I've never dealt with that. I've never had to worry about credit card scores and all of that because I feel about it, you should be rewarding me for my saving instead of looking at how well I handle debt. And I always say there's not a bank in the world. If I walk in and say, I'm buying a house, I have $100,000 down to put on it. Mm-hmm. What bank is going to turn me away and not give me a good deal? So I've always said I'm going to buy my own house, but I ended up traveling.
That's smart. So yeah, okay. Talking about traveling, so that's interesting. So how did you get into traveling? So you said you saved $155,000 while traveling to 28 countries in 5 years. So I guess when you become financially independent, you just started traveling. Like how did that happen? So you were like a nomad for the first 5 years, and and you're still doing that. So I mean, what inspired you to do that?
Well, living in Japan and Germany and Italy, I've always had that wanderlust, that desire to travel. And it wasn't this to be 6 years. This is supposed to be 1 year. And the idea for this happened in a bar. We know that all good ideas come out of bars, right? So I was invited. It
Sure.
was a Friday, and we were talking about retirement and what we wanted our retirement to look like. And I said, you
Mhm.
know what? Because I'm single and I've always been single. So everything is on me. I have every decision, everything, like you might have a honeydew list. I don't. I am honeydew. I have to do everything. And so I remember saying, you know what? When I retire, I just want a year of no responsibilities. None what's
Mhm.
just no responsibilities. Christine, I had no idea what that was gonna look like. I had no idea how it would manifest. But it through the next few years, I started trying to figure out what is that first year of retirement going to look like. And I came up with 12 months, 12 countries. So my vision was to go to 12 in 12 months, go to 12 countries. Midway, less than by the fourth country, somewhere in Belize, I think I was, and I'm like, this 1 month, every step 1 month, that's too much. That's just way too much. Um, it was wearing on me. I had to realize I'm no longer 26. I was 56 years old. So I decided to start staying 2 or 3 months. If I like the country, the way I do it is I buy a one-way ticket. If I like the country, I stay. If I don't, I move on. And then I discovered Mexico. I discovered, well, I had been to South Africa about 30 years ago. I went back to South Africa. And then I fell in love with Thailand. I had been to Thailand maybe 2 times before I retired. So, what eventually by the third year, I spent 3 months in Mexico, 3 months in Thailand, and 3 months in South Africa. The other 3 months, I traveled back home. So I try to make it to countries I haven't been to. So last year I did Sri Lanka, Oman, and Rwanda.
Okay.
And
Oh,
my goal is I've been to 73 countries. My goal is to make it to 100. And then I'm going to
wow.
maybe we'll see.
Yeah. So
The
how do?
other
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh
No,
no,
I'm
go ahead.
saying the other lesson my dad taught me was basically about debt. And I remember walking into the kitchen. I was a drama queen. I was always walking into the kitchen making an announcement. And I walked into the kitchen. I was 9 years old, and I said, when I grow up, I'm getting me an American Express card, and I'm going to Kuala Lumpur. Because the lady on the television made it seem like if you have an American Express card, you can go to Kuala Lumpur, right? So in my
Mhm.
9-year-old mind, I was going to get one of those things called an American Express card. And my dad told me straight up, he said, I tell you, you can do whatever you want. And you can. He said, but if you can't pay cash for that trip to Kuala Lumpur, you can't afford to go. And so then started the lesson about debt. He said, there are people in this world whose sole job, their purpose is to separate you from your money. And I just had some quarters in a piggy bank, and I'm like, well, who are these people who want to separate me from my money? So he started teaching me about advertisement, the psychological part of it, how they make things look like you have to have it. And even way back then, this was 50 years ago, he's teaching me about fake wealth. And that's
Mhm.
what has us in such a bind in America, is that fake wealth and trying to show everybody that you have something.
What do you mean by fake wealth?
I didn't hear you.
What do you mean by fake wealth?
Fake wealth. By fake wealth, I mean buying things that you can't afford to
Yep.
make it look like you're wealthy. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
people with the Gucci bags and the Louis Vuitton bags. And when I teach my kids, I tell them, I'm like, Louis Vuitton lives in a mansion, and I show them a picture of a mansion. This is where he lives. Why would you give this man $1,500? So one
Uh-huh.
of my kids said, Miss Brown, you're demonizing Louis Vuitton and things like that. I said, no, no, no. I'm not demonizing it. It's perfectly fine if you
Mm-hmm.
can afford it.
Yeah.
And so then I teach them my litmus test for affordability. My litmus test for affordability is, are you out of debt? Do you have an emergency fund? If you can say those things, you can buy whatever you want. But when you
Yeah.
sabotage debt and you sabotage an emergency fund to get a Louis Vuitton bag, you are sabotaging your wealth building. I'm not saying you can't have those things. You can have them when you can afford them. That's my
Mm-hmm.
idea. And this is why I teach young people. I don't deal with the older people.
Okay, so how are you teaching the young people right now? Are you said you're teaching high school, so is it like you're doing virtual? Like how are you doing this right now?
Well, I do it as I travel. So when I'm in South Africa, the US we have a US consulate there, and the US consulate has the American corner. So when I go there, I volunteer and I teach. It's all volunteering. I volunteer. I believe in giving back to your community, giving back. When you're blessed, you have to pay back. So I teach in South Africa. I've taught there. In Thailand, I've done a workshop. There's a lot of young people in
Mm-hmm.
Thailand who are living there, working from their laptops because the overhead is so cheap. And so I meet so many of them, and they have no idea about money. They're making a lot of money typing on those
Oh,
laptops, but if you don't know what to do with it, and
got
so
it.
I teach there. And then I started teaching for Fort Bend's extended learning program. And what I like about that is I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
do anything for that. And that I do charge for that because I teach I teach three classes: basic money management. I teach a class called nomadic retirement, why stay in one place, and I also teach public speaking, how to speak in public. So those classes I teach and I charge for those. But I didn't want to charge for the money management, but they said they had to because they get a portion of it. So
Got it. Got it.
yeah.
Okay. Tell me more about the nomadic retirement. So how does you teach people to retire while still a nomad? Like what's the premise and foundation of
I
the
teach
class?
them how to live like I live, basically, how to move from country to country, how to get decent prices. Like, what people don't understand is in travel, everything, Christine, everything is negotiable. Everything. And so I
Mm-hmm.
don't pay full price. I hope I'm not offending any Airbnb people, but if it's low, because see, I travel in low season and I
Mm-hmm.
travel in spring. So I've had eternal spring for maybe 4.5 of the 6 years I've been on the road. I've been in springtime because I make sure that. And but in most people say, well, springtime is not low season. Yes, it is in a lot of places where I'm going. So I try to travel in low season. I try to stay within one continent and do my travel. Like when I'm in Asia, I'm going to Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand. Those flights are like $50 to get from country to country. So I live on the budget, and I do have my splurges. I do like 5-star hotels. So every quarter, while I'm on the road, I try to stay in one. But what people don't
Mm-hmm.
understand is 5-star hotels have sales. They don't advertise them, but they have cheap prices. I stayed in Kuala. I finally made it to Kuala Lumpur, and
Yeah.
I stayed at the Ritz Carlton there, and I think I paid no more than $85 a
Oh,
night.
nice.
It's new, usually around $300 or $400. But I think that what I want people to understand while we're talking is that, and I used to hate it when people who had done what I want to do and they say it's easy, and I'm from my point of view, it's not. It is easy if you stay out of debt, build yourself an emergency fund. Once that's done, you start putting all of your money that you were putting into that emergency fund, all of that into investing. That's all I did. I don't know. You probably did have better strategies than I do because you know what you're talking about. But
Mm.
and that's why I teach high school kids. I don't go above my pay grade. I don't go. I don't. I stay in my lane. I would
Yeah.
never try to think about doing what you do. What you do is a great service.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. So how do you teach this? Is it like an online course or a virtual class? Like how?
No, I teach every year. I fly home in spring and fall to teach these classes for
Oh,
yeah, to it, and I go to the states, but every virtual year, so I taught them virtual this year.
got it.
And I did not like it. I'm a people person, as you can tell. And I like
Yeah,
everything in person. And I'm a public speaker. I'm a motivational speaker. It is
got it.
hard to be motivational on this. Yeah, it's
Oh,
kind of hard for me.
yeah, you can't really see the people. I mean, like, I guess you can kind of see the Zoom, but it's not like, you're on stage and you can see everyone's facial expression, right? So,
Exactly. When I'm on stage or in a classroom, I can read body language. I can get a feel for how well I'm doing, if I'm getting my point
mhm,
across. I can
mhm.
make people laugh. I mean, I
Yeah.
do it on Zoom. I like making people laugh. I love public speaking. It's part of teaching. Being a
Hmm.
teacher, I was meant to be a teacher, and when I left teaching, I thought I would do because I was always speaking when I was in Germany. I was in high demand constantly, but that was a small community. So when I
Hmm.
figured when I retired, I would do it differently. But the world of speaking is now going online, and you got to be on the Twitter and the tweets. And no, I can't do that. That's not, you know what? I worked hard. I'm 62. I ain't doing nothing I don't have to do.
Yeah, yeah. So Maria is asking, do you travel alone?
I travel alone. I Of the 73 countries I've been to, I would say 55 of those I've been alone, solo travel. Solo is
Wow.
the way to go. I'm not much for compromise.
So you prefer like by yourself, that you don't have to like compromise with anyone about any travel plans. You just go what works for you. Oh, that's
No
yeah,
compromises.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm
So
never alone. I'm never alone. People say, "Well, don't you get lonely on the road?" No, I don't. No, I don't. As a matter of fact, most of the time I'm running. This is gonna sound terrible. I am an introvert. I'm an extroverted introvert, and so I'm
mhm,
running from people because you get to know people, and I shouldn't say running like not wanting to be with, but I have my moments when I need to be alone, and my social calendar gets really full. Because what I do is when I have my tribe of people in Mexico. I have a set of friends in South Africa and a huge group of friends in Thailand because we have a large group there. So when I go
mhm,
there, I'm good. When I go to new countries, if I feel the need to meet somebody, I'll go to meetup.com. And I
mhm,
love organic gardening, organic fruits and vegetables. I want to learn that when I've settled down and build my house. I want to be self-sustaining, so I want to grow my own fruits and vegetables. And so I go to meetups to meet people who are thinking like me, who have the same thing. So permaculture, entrepreneurship, gardening, history,
mhm.
any of those groups. And when you go to those meetups, it's always like, oh, well, let's go out for coffee afterwards. So let's meet up next week for lunch. You always have opportunities to meet people, and people are so gracious on the road, especially people like me who are traveling like me. We know that the friendships are fleeting, so we just have fun while we're together. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm never lonely on the road ever.
Yeah. So Maria said, "Good to know you're so brave. You are brave. That's good. Yeah, awesome. Okay, good question, Maria. So okay, so Jay, I know you've been kind of very active on LinkedIn. So I'm just curious, like, how has LinkedIn helped you so far, and what have you what are the benefits you've gotten from being on LinkedIn?
Well, I haven't. There's not been much of a return on my investment on LinkedIn. I went to LinkedIn because
Uh-huh.
I was told if you're going to speak, you need to be a speaker, you need to be on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first got on LinkedIn, I was extremely disappointed because it was like, buy my products, buy my stuff. People DMing you because they want you to do things,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
um and it just seems like a one big huge sales pitch. And
Yeah.
then everybody with these cookie cutter ways. Here, I'm going to sell you this webinar because this is how you should do this. And everybody's trying to teach you how to. I just couldn't get it until I started. And now I did started making connections, and I love my little tribe of people. I love the people that I communicate with, but I don't see any true benefit. I just like the people. I'm a people person, so I get on to like the people. I haven't seen any benefit from it, and I don't
Yeah,
expect to. But I'm having fun,
yeah, yeah.
and
Well, you
I
are.
love making posts about money. I'm going to start doing some about travel because people have been asking me. So I'll probably be doing more posts about travel and how I travel around the world,
Yep,
and I'll
yep,
do
yeah.
that.
You should write a blog or a post about that, or even like write a book about it. Like I think the Nora, the professional hobo, she wrote a book about like I think how to save on accommodation while traveling.
I am writing a book, and I do have a blog, but it's like it started out like a mom and pop blog. When you go there, you're gonna think, okay, grandma made this blog. But I'm proud of that blog because I am technologically challenged, and I made that blog from scratch. My 100%. And a young millennial, I call him my millennial in Thailand, he made me hit publish because I can be a perfectionist. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
Jay, if you wait to things to be perfect, you'll never get it done. His name was Scott. Now I remember him. And he sat with me. We opened up my blog and I hit publish. So I always give Scott credit whenever I talk to people about my
Yeah,
blog.
yeah. Oh, Maria has one more question. I think you might have answered this earlier. Earlier, where do you invest your saved money?
Well, that's hard to say. I don't talk about investing because it's not my wheelhouse. Let me tell you, my brother-in-law is a financial advisor, financial planner.
Mm-hmm.
So when my sister married him, every knowledge I had about stocks and everything went out the door. And I would just
Yep.
save 5 or 10 or $20,000
Okay.
and say, here, do something with it. And he
Mm-hmm.
would always try to teach me. And I'm like, I don't want to know. Now,
Yeah.
I do not advise this for anybody,
Yeah.
anybody. But my brother was the most trustworthy person that I know on this earth. So I knew I could trust and not have to listen to whereas with other financial planners, I would have had to be on point. I don't believe in investing with someone and not knowing at least half of what they know. We'll never know what all the financial planners know, but you need to know enough to make an informed decision. And so I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that much about stocks. I know where my money is, but I don't talk about that because I can't,
Yeah.
and do
Got
it
it.
in an
Yeah.
intelligent
No. No.
way.
Totally. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You just share whatever you're comfortable with. So yeah, Maria, if you want to talk more about that, you're more than welcome to message me. But I think like, yeah, we on even licensed in advisors, they can't give investment advice on air or in public. So yeah. Okay.
I was
So
South,
yeah, this
I was in South Africa, and I saw this. I read this quote in a Tony Robbins book in a Airbnb in South Africa, and it says, when a person with experience meets a person with money, the person with the money ends up having an experience, and the person with the experience ends up having the money. So what that basically means
is.
is you need to know what you're what you're doing when you invest.
Yep, yep, exactly. Okay, so yeah, Jay, this has been really helpful. Do you have any tips for people who actually want to jumpstart being financially independent? Like any just whatever overall tips for them? Like what is maybe your top two or top three tips? You kind of went over that, but just to summarize, what would be tips you would give someone they want to become financially independent faster?
If they want to become financially independent, you have to have low debt. I all my money, because I didn't have debt, and I haven't had debt since I
Mhm.
was 33. I built a house. That was debt, but that's good debt. I don't count that as debt. But I'm talking
Yeah.
about credit card debt. I don't
Yeah.
have that. I've paid since I was 33. I pay everything off. So pay
Mhm.
everything off every month. Do not
Mhm.
let your credit
Yeah.
linger. Don't let credit guide your life and those
Yeah.
credit scores. Although I know that's somewhere important to some people, I
Mhm.
suggest you show how well you save, show how well you invest,
Mhm.
and a bank will be invested in you when if you have 30, 40, 50, $60,000 somewhere sitting.
Yeah.
You still need to keep a good credit rating, because especially for young people. I'm older, I don't need that. I know I can get
Yeah.
a house. So my tips would be, stay out of debt, figure out your enough. We're all fighting to get more and more and more. Figure out what your
Exactly.
enough is. I
Yeah.
remember in Thailand, I met a young man, and he said, "Jay, your blog is so cool." He said, "You could monetize it, and you could do this." And he started talking about affiliates and going on Facebook. And I was like, and I looked at him, and I said, "But that's work." He said, "Well, yeah, but you're gonna put in the work and you're gonna have this money." I said, "But I don't want to do all of that. I have enough." And he looked at me like I was,
And
he looked at me kind of alien. No, there's never enough. Yes, there is. I don't want to spend the rest of
exactly.
my life
Yeah.
trying to get more and more.
Exactly.
I am so
Exactly.
happy right now. I feel
I'm
nothing but joy, even under COVID. Joy
yeah.
every day. I am so happy with my life. And I
Yeah.
designed it and I
Mhm.
planned it. So
Yeah.
you understand.
Yeah, so I'm with you, Jay, because I call it what is your happy money number. So you go from like your life purpose, what kind of life you want to live, what kind of retirement you want to live, and we figure out how much really that is, and you go backwards. Like, are you doing the right thing to get there? So because like the reason people are in a rat race because they probably don't know what their happy money number is. They keep saying, "Oh, I need more and more and more. Maybe I need millions and millions." But something most people don't need millions and millions of dollars, and because the more you have, the more you're gonna work, the more people you might have to hire. So it's just not the lifestyle I like. So I'm really with you, Jay. It's for me, like you have to figure out what makes you really happy, fulfilled, satisfied, not stressed. So for me, I love my lifestyle. I've been really taking it easy ever since I moved to Vegas, and then I have enough clients, I have enough money coming in. I don't have to work as hard, and then I'm happy. I made my retirement plans in a way. I'm sort of semi-retired that I don't have to work as hard, and I lifestyle. I love it. And then once COVID is up, I'm gonna travel more. And then so that's what I like. And I don't have kids. I don't want kids. So that's I have a reason for doing that. So it's easier for me financially too. So yeah. So Jay, thank you so much. This is really helpful. I love hearing your story. It's so inspiring. You know how you're like so independent traveling. So I hope you inspire people. So if people want to connect with you just to get to know you and stuff like that, or learn more about what you offer, like how can people find you or reach out to you?
Okay, I don't have this list of social networks. I am on LinkedIn at Jady Brown. That's Jady Brown. I'm on Facebook at Living Outside the Boundaries.
Okay.
My
Yeah, and then
website is called Living Outside the Boundaries. So
nice.
Facebook is Living Outside the Boundaries. My website is Living Outside the Boundaries.
Awesome. Yeah. And yesterday it was so funny. I just interviewed someone whose name is Jay. So and you're also Jay. So I think I got confused between the two of you. I'm like, no, there's two different Jay. So I just tag you on the live so that way people can message you or connect with you through the live stream if they want to. Yeah. So
Okay.
thank you, Jay. And then I really appreciate this. Thank you for coming on. And I think it's time for you to go to bed. So sorry for keeping you up so late, but I really appreciate this. So have a good night there and enjoy your time. And I'll talk to you. I'll see you around LinkedIn.
It was fun. I'll see you on
Okay.
LinkedIn. I'm going to slow down on that a little bit, but I'll be around. Thank you, Christine. It was fun. I'm
Okay,
just so
bye,
happy. I
Jay.
feel like a
Bye.
rock star. I'm so happy I could to talk to you.
Uh,
I love
thank
I
you.
love your spirit. I love what you do, and I think we all should be teaching young people about money.
Oh, indeed. Yes, yes.
It's a life changer.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's not by law required, but so hopefully that will change later on. But yeah, we're just doing our best to try to teach them. But hopefully the law will change that it will require in school later. So till
I
then,
heard you ask one of the ladies about getting into schools. I'll give you some idea on that. It's not that difficult. Yeah, if you want to teach it.
oh, okay, all right. Let's chat offline about that then.
Okay.
All right, Jay. Talk to you later. Bye
Bye,
bye.
everybody. Okay.